Hello, everybody. This is a joy to be together, connected, far from each other, but at the same time connected with love, God's love. The World Day of Prayer is a gift passed down to us from heart to heart by our mothers and sisters in Christ. Each dared to live beyond the limits of creed and race, daily circumstance and tradition, to make room for the whole world in her prayers and in her actions. These words were said by Beclee Wilson from San Francisco, California in 1987. Indeed, a precious gift that has passed down from generation to generation. A global ecumenical movement that has grown from a simple service of prayer held in 1887. In 1887. The Day of Prayer became in name what it had already become in reality, the World Day of Prayer in 1927. So, the year of 2027 will be, God willing, a landmark for the WDP movement. From 1927 till 2027, 100 years of uninterrupted prayers and prayerful actions. The founding meeting of the WDPIC was in Stockholm, Sweden, July 20 till 25 in 1968 by 33 women from 23 countries. Since 1963, every 4 or 5 years, the WDP International Committee has met regularly. In 1970, they met in Bangkok, 74 Mexico, 78 Zambia, 82 Germany, 2007 Canada, 2012 New York, USA, and the last one was in 2017 in Brazil. Next year, in June 2022, we will be meeting for the first time virtually, hosted by Scotland. Personally, I have attended 2 WDP international meetings, one in 2003 and the second in 2017. What an enriching experience. Colorful and diverse cultures, warm and joyful, spiritual and mental growth. 5 full days of learning together, talking, eating, singing, and praying, plus new friendships. I am very happy to introduce to you 3 chairpersons of the last 10 years of WDP history. Annette Pointier, she's from Bahamas from 2007 till 2012. We have Corina Harbig from Slovenia, 2012 till 2017. And currently, Laurence Gangloff, she's from France. She got elected in 2017, and her term is going to end in 2022. Each of these ladies has contributed a lot to the growth of the movement and still does. Today's global conversation is to get to know them more closely, for which I'm excited and grateful.
I was introduced to World Day of Prayer by 2 groups of women, the Methodist Women in the Bahamas and Church Women United in the United States. It was 1978, actually, and Church Women United had invited Caribbean women to join them in their preparation for the International Year of the Child, which was 1979. In 1978, I was 36 years old and very much involved in youth work. So the women approached me and said, well, you work with children and youth, and it's the International Year of the Child, so please go and represent us in New York with Church Women United. I attended that seminar in New York, and what inspired me most from the seminar was the presentation by a lady called Dorothy Wagner. And her presentation was actually about World Day of Prayer. She spoke very passionately about the work that World Day of Prayer was doing with children particularly, but children and women. And I took very good notes about what she said. So on my return, my reports were not just about the International Year of the Child, but about what World Day of Prayer was doing in the lives of children, particularly at that time in Africa. So I suppose it was inevitable that in 1979, the Year of the Child, that I was asked to speak at one of the World Day of Prayer services in Nassau, in the Bahamas, of course. That year, I changed my job and I moved to another island. And there I continued the talks about World Day of Prayer and the International Year of the Child. So then again in 1980, the women in Grand Bahama asked me to speak. And so that was when I was invited to assist with the work. And here I am, 43 years later, still helping in the Bahamas. Thank you.
I have 3 points. As a child, I went to my church, to Lutheran church, to Children's Hour, and there we celebrated, I don't know if it was Children's Service of World Day of Prayer or something else, but I wasn't aware, of course, that time of WDP, but I was fascinated to hear from children in other countries about their living conditions, their games, their hopes, and so on. This at first in the childhood. Then later, during my internship as a young Lutheran pastor, my teacher said, "Oh, I'm glad that you are here. You can organize the World Day of Prayer." Normally, he and the priest from the Catholic Church were organizing the service, appointed women to prepare the reading and so on. So it was learning by doing, and it was a great practical ecumenical experience. And the third, when me and my husband with my family started a German-speaking ecumenical church group in our host country, Slovenia, I wanted to celebrate WDP, of course. And it was, again, a great tool to bring women and young girls together to prepare and to celebrate and connect through informed prayer with women around the world. The hosting Lutheran pastor in Ljubljana asked me to celebrate the service the upcoming year in 2 languages and invite and include the Slovene women as well. And in the next step, a small already existing WDP group from the other side of Slovenia contacted us, and together we started to build up a WDP network Slovenia. And again, somebody heard from us, and how is the name? No, I don't have the name, from the European representation from Denmark. She connected with me and brought me to the European network, and then step by step it went on. The fascinating was, you are there, you have the wish to do something like Annette says, and then it is a network which starts and you are a part of it, and it's great. For me, it's great and it's a blessing.
How did I get involved with World Day of Prayer? The first time I was a teenager, and when the pastor asked me to read a part of the service of the World Day of Prayer, and it was simply a matter of reading a text, but this confidence expressed by the local group had marked me. And the second time I get in touch with the World Day of Prayer was when I lived in Lebanon with my husband. The local group invited me to participate in their preparation meeting. And Maral was one of the participants of this group. And preparing the World Day of Prayer celebration was one of the only activities outside of my life as a young mother. So it was a unique experience for me, but it also teaches me that a group that is willing to open its door is a living group. And I'm sure you all know some groups that are not able to welcome new people in their groups. But for me, my experience was just the opposite. I was welcomed, and this was a blessing, and is still a blessing.
What has impacted me the most in my role as chairperson? In 5 years as chairperson, you could almost write a series of books if you're working with World Day of Prayer, because every sentence you write in your diary is a story. Every single sentence is a story. But overall, I would say that journeying with women was perhaps the one thing that impacted me most, especially journeying with women of different generations. I had the pleasure of working with young women in all of the international meetings that I attended. And I think that was very good for me, as well as working with older women. And so that really had a profound impact on me. Another impact was the opportunity to meet the writers of services each year. Meeting them was, just understanding what they did to bring their country to the world. And particularly, I'll mention Papua New Guinea, where two women impacted that country so much that their government made World Day of Prayer 2009 a public holiday and gave the women the right to hold a huge rally. That really was so profound. And then there was those special moments, those once in a lifetime moments that you're happy to be where you are for that particular moment. I was there to form the new region, North America, Caribbean. But what was profound for me was being the chairperson to speak at the memorial service of Dorothy Wagner, the woman who had inspired me so much in 1978. I was able to be there to speak at her memorial service. And then forming the friendships with the international office staff, Eileen King, Diane Howard, Alison Van Buskirk. And then my advisors were so good, Elizabeth Del Monte and Lila Carmine. And we're still friends to this day. And then the distinct honor of me being the chairperson to appoint the new executive secretary. And I think the world will agree with me, Rosangela, that we chose the right person. And I thank God for you, Rosangela, and I thank you. Thank you, Morale.
What impacted me? First of all, our work as an executive committee, and especially our meetings. Our agenda was always very tight, and I was afraid whether we will handle all topics. But we always find time to share personal things, as well as our hope, joy, and concerns about our WDP work. The experience of sisterhood among us beyond confessions, professions, and origins was and is an inestimable value. Today, seeing all of you, I have goose pimples and a warm heart. This is World Day of Prayer. Secondly, it was a privilege to join as a WDP chairperson our Sisters of the Fellowship of the Least Coin, and to join the meetings of the World Council of Churches, and to represent there our network and to build new and strengthen old contacts. All in one, the challenge and the advantage of networking with different levels on and with different levels. This is World Day of Prayer.
What has impacted me? Wow, this was the trip to Vanuatu. It was not the trip itself, although it was the longest in my life because it took me 3 days and 2 nights to go over there. But it was not the matter of tourism. It was the matter of meeting 40 women and to discover an editorial process that has been put in place by the different executive directors of our movement. And this process has proven itself since the beginning of World Day of Prayer. It is a living process that evolves and adapts to all situations, even COVID. And as chairperson, it is a privilege and a special blessing to follow such a process from the beginning till its completion. So this is really what I'm taking with me for these 5 years of chairperson.
I really wonder how Lawrence has managed with this pandemic. This has been quite a time for us, but going forward from here, I pray that we will cherish this time and remember the gifts that we got from this pandemic, because what we're doing today is one of the gifts from this pandemic. And I think it will continue. And I pray that each country involved in this movement will have an opportunity to write a service. That was my aspiration when I found out about writing the services, that my country would write a service. And that was really wonderful for us. And I think in writing a service, you get to find out so much more. And you get the feeling, it's such a wonderful feeling when you know that the whole world is praying for you. And so I would hope that in the next 100 years, just about every country involved in World Day of Prayer will have an opportunity to write a service. And I pray that young women will be involved at every level, the local level, regional level, and the international level. Because coming in at an early age, I know that some are young mothers, and I know that sometimes it's more difficult to just get out from family, but young women make a difference. And I thank God for that. There's incredible power in World Day of Prayer. It's so much power in knowing that the women all over the world are working for peace and working for justice for women and praying together. I think that's the secret of World Day of Prayer. That's our secret sauce. The fact that the whole world is praying together on a single day. And I just want us to keep advocating for leadership, not only of women, but for women who pray, for Christian women who pray. Let's pray for their leadership over the next 100 years. Thank you.
Of course, I hope and pray, and I'm sure that WDP will go on growing. I hope that more and more younger women all over the world will be involved in the work. As you said, Annette, on all levels, on each level. I hope we will never lose the emphasis of both aspects. We are a movement of informed prayer and prayerful action. I hope our grandchildren and great-grandchildren will have the opportunity all over the world to invite their daughters to our World Day of Prayer services.
Amen.
And my dream could be that we are able to write a real special service for the year 100 years after. So this will be 2027 for us, that we are really able to write something so powerful with the young and for the young, and also for the other women, so that all together we are writing a meaningful service. And my other dream is about living together. It joined again the peace, what Corinna said about peace. Better said, not better said concerning my saying, is able to be together. We know that each of us can be a source of change for ourselves, for our family, for our church, and for our world. And the earth needs our attention. It knows no borders, but it suffers. And men, women, and children suffer while we are living on this earth. There we are, each one of us. We are and we have opportunity to improve things or situations. And by listening to the voices of the women of World Day of Prayer, I am renewed in my commitment to this world, to myself, to every woman, and even to God. So my dream for World Day of Prayer, I wish that the movement progresses, expands, never stopped, develops for the betterment of each and everyone. Yes, I do not know what is a critical change or what was in the mind of the questionnaire, but I think it is essential that the next international meeting takes the opportunity to clarify the issue of celebration published online. You know that currently the executive director of World Day of Prayer sends each national or regional committee the material that has been finalized by the writing group. Once the country have received this material, this is 18 months before the day of the celebration, each committee, national or regional, appropriate the material by translating it, and then for some countries, doing a lot of work on the layout and even adding information. And finally, some countries valorize this material through publication or the creation of objects, most often sold. And it was an oral rule that the material cannot be published online. However, some countries cannot function otherwise. So to answer the question, it seems obvious to me that we should accept that each committee in its soul and conscience decides the publication on its website of the celebration and all the material or not, but that we can have this conversation during the next international meeting. And the other challenge is the place taken by video conferences. How nice it is to meet the world like today, from my office behind my screen. But it would seem that to me dangerous that we decide that this is the only model of communication and that becomes the norm at our regional or international meetings. Saving money, saving energy, if they are undeniable, should not have, in my opinion, the last word on the real meeting. These meetings that value the sisterhood, the sharing, and especially the link that unites us to each other. So I love really video conferences, but I'm not dreaming about a world only made by video conferences. And this can be a next challenge for World Day of Prayer.
Of course, there are many tasks I didn't fulfill as good as it could be. Today, in my mind came this. My sermon on the closing worship of the last international meeting in Brazil was about Matthew 28, verses 16 to 20, the commissioning of the disciples. In that time I said, we as women of faith are called and empowered to follow the footsteps of Jesus. We as women, as God's creation, are value and we are wisdom in the household of God. We as women never mind the color of our skin, never mind the denomination or religion, never mind if we are young, a mother or grandmother, married or single, If we are lesbian or bisexual, we as women of God's creation are value and are wisdom. After the worship, some women waited for me in the corner, I have to say. I will get tears because they said, thank you that you have mentioned us. We as lesbian living in partnership, we are World Day of Prayer women, but often we are not sure if we are welcome. We are now in June. It is the month of Pride, the month many rainbow parades are all over the world to make us aware. All people, sorry for me, I'm touched. All people are God's creation. All are value and wisdom. If I would start nowadays as a chairperson again, I would give space to learn together from each other in our World Day of Prayer sisterhood, to tolerate each other of us as women of God's creation.
Well, I don't think I have any specific, I can't think of anything specific that I did to get to the position that I served in with World Day of Prayer, but I was helped along by quite a number of people who helped me to do what I did. My only aspiration was really to become a writer country. But I would say that being able to understand my own gifts and to volunteer them in the work of World Day of Prayer was probably what others saw in me and asked me to do. But step by step, I moved into the national, regional work, and I think for me, it just happened. But really volunteering and attending an international meeting helped me to understand more fully the work of World Day of Prayer. And I was always willing to volunteer and to do whatever was asked. And so because of that, I think others wanted me to do more. But I don't know if that's the kind of advice you want, but I would say continue to volunteer. Volunteer your talents, your gifts, volunteer.
Yes, I'm so exciting to sing with you this prayer, and I think this refrain, "Your kingdom come, your will be done," is just what we need for our future, to our dreams can come true. I invite you to sing with me, and you can also show this refrain, "Your kingdom come, your will be done." It's your kingdom come, your will be done. Your kingdom come, your will be done. Also in my heart. And let us sing together the refrain. Your kingdom come, your will be done. Your kingdom come, your will be done. Our Father in heaven, hallowed be your name. Your kingdom come, your will be done. Your kingdom come, your will be done. Your kingdom come, your will be done, as in heaven, so on us today our daily bread, and forgive us our sins, as we forgive those who sin against us. Your kingdom come, your will be done. Your kingdom come, your will be done. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Your kingdom come, your will be done. Your kingdom come, your will be done. For yours are the kingdom, the power, the glory, now and forever. Amen. Your kingdom come, your will be done. Your kingdom come, your will be done. Amen.